What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Vulnerable Moments, the podcast. I'm your host, Joevan J. Palmer, and as always, we have amazing people sharing vulnerable moments. Today, we are talking boundaries. How do you set them? I know for me, in the past, I've had very poor boundaries, and I am actually still working on setting boundaries and setting space and making room for myself. Oftentimes, people who have poor boundaries have probably been through something in their lives, something traumatic, something where life just hit them, or where they feel like they had to want to be accepted all the time and everything. But when it comes to boundaries, ask yourself, why don't you have good boundaries? Why do you have poor boundaries? I know for me, there's times where I want to be accepted. There was times where I wanted to be around. I wanted to be in the mix, and I just want to be there for people because I'm so loyal. I'm loyal to a fault. And I'm realizing that with these poor boundaries, with these poor expectations of others and myself, it allows me to show up for people when I shouldn't be showing up for them. It allows me to show up for people when I should be showing up for myself. So when it comes to boundaries, you really want to set the expectation right then and there. You don't want to get into something just because you want to get into something, because you want to be liked, because you want to be loved. You want to get into something because of your worth and your value. You want to ensure that who you are is who you can show up as every time. Every time is who, and that for the person who you are. You don't want to have to come into something and change and then do all that you can, do whatever you can just to be around, just to be liked, just to be accepted, just to prove your worth, just to prove your value, just to prove yourself to others. You want to ensure that you set the expectation and the boundary ahead of time. This is who I am. This is what I'm going to give you. This is the expectation I'm going to set right now. I've realized in my life that I do not set boundaries ahead of time. It's more so I get in, I show up as somebody else, and then when I get into it, I beat myself up because it's like, this isn't who you are. This isn't where you should be. This isn't the boundary that you want to set. And then guilt sometimes sink in when you look at something and you say you want to respond, but you don't want to respond. And when you're tangled in between the two of setting expectations for the boundary and then also wanting to show up, you have to show up as yourself. Find your most authentic self. Ask yourself, what are your core values? A lot of people don't know what their core values are. And when I say core values, these are the things that you're going to always stick to. These are the things that people are always going to stick to as well. So it's like, if you value your time, if you value your space, if you value, people respecting you, if you value, people showing up for you in the way that you show up for them, what do you value? What are your core values? When you know your core values, that's when you will know exactly how to set the boundary with people, how to set a boundary where people know how to show up for you. People know how to treat you. People know exactly they know what to expect from you. A lot of people don't know what to expect from others because you don't know what to expect from yourself. You don't know yourself. So this episode is more so going to be talking about how do you get to know yourself and how do you set the boundary. Getting to know yourself means that you have to sit down with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to really look at who you are, look at who you were, and then also look at the future you. So that means getting a journal, writing these things down. I have been in self-discovery mode for the past couple of years, and I'm discovering so much about myself. I'm discovering my boundaries. I'm discovering my poor boundaries. I'm discovering things I like. I'm discovering things that I don't like. I'm discovering people that I don't like. I'm discovering things I don't like. I'm discovering things I don't like about myself. I'm discovering things I don't like about, how I present myself. I'm discovering things of how I, have a lot of people into my life. It's just so many things I'm discovering about myself. I'm discovering my relationship style. Oh my God. I was in therapy yesterday, which is a Thursday, and my therapist, we were talking about, she's like, what's up with your love life? And I'm like, I'm dating. She's like, are you really dating? I'm like, yeah, I'll be going on dates with chicks and stuff. We be out having a good time, this and the third. And she's like, no, you don't. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you asked me a question, I give you an answer. And that's not how she said it, but, just me going back and forth right now. And I'm like, excuse me. I'm like, yeah, I'm dating. And she goes, well, what does dating look like for you? I said, me getting to know somebody, and really trying to get to know them. She's like, I can guarantee you that when you go on a date, you have a checklist in your head, and if they don't meet that expectation of that checklist, you check out. And I'm like, dang, you're right. So when it goes back to those poor boundaries, the boundaries, like setting the expectation up front of who you want to be. And I'm realizing that I take who I was in every space of my life, and that's not fair to me, and that's not fair to anyone else. And when it comes to boundaries, you have to really know who you are, know your worth, know your values. And that comes for every aspect of your life. Every aspect, from in work, friendships, business relationships, intimate relationships, platonic relationships, in every aspect. It's like I've always wanted to be accepted because I felt like as a child I was never accepted. And that is what allowed me to establish poor boundaries. And I'm asking myself, how do you break free from poor boundaries? How do you stop showing up as this person that you don't want to show up as anymore? How do you get people to respect your boundaries? How do you release the guilt that is associated with trying to establish a boundary? That's the hardest part. The hardest part is getting rid of the guilt that comes with a boundary. So if somebody texts me after 9 o'clock, I don't feel so inclined to respond to them. My phone is on Do Not Disturb for a reason. That was part of me setting a boundary for myself. I use a system to set a boundary for me, because it's not fair to me that I can't live my life, that I can't do what's best for me. I can't live for me because I'm not setting the expectations. I'm not setting the boundary for what I want for my life. I'm not sticking to my guns. And it's been the hardest thing ever. And I ask myself sometimes, well, if you know you don't want to do something, why do you do it? And it all goes back down to acceptance. We all want to be accepted. We all want to be liked. We all want to be loved. I don't care what anybody says. No one is that hard that they don't want to be accepted. They don't want to be loved. They don't want to be around people. Well, I sometimes don't want to be around people. But the gist of what I'm saying is that we all have an expectation in our hearts, in our minds, and in our souls on how we want to show up, how we want to show up to the world, how we want the world to see us. But at the same time, it causes us to set a poor boundary. So when you want a boundary and you want to break free from something or somebody that has had the poor boundary, the question is, what do you do? How do you do it? That's been a challenge for me. How do I break free from a boundary that I've now established, and how do I break free from the guilt? The biggest challenge. And the way that I've recognized and how to do it, which is not healthy, was just kind of just fade into the background. But I'm realizing that fading into the background and not just speaking up for myself does me no justice, does me no good, because what happens is I carry that into the next thing. The person that I was trying not to be in this situation or this relationship, I carried on to the next one because I've never dealt with it. So what I'm doing now in this year of becoming is dealing with everything that I had poor boundaries with. So when it comes to people, I'm setting the boundary and I'm setting the expectation of, you can't call me when you want to. You can't text me when you want to. You can't expect a response when you want to. You can't expect me to show up when you want me to. Things are now on my agenda and my time. I show up when I want to show up. I allow the call to come through when I want the call to come through. I allow, the text to be responded to when I want the text to be responded to. It's all about grasping and gaining control back over your life. When you can gain control over your life and gain control over who you want to be and what you want your life to look like. A lot of times we're so scared to sit down and really just make a list of what we want our life to look like, because we're scared of the change. We're scared of losing people. Don't be afraid to lose people who are not conducive to your life. And that's the thing that I had to get over. I have such a big fear of losing people in my life who I felt have been such amazing people to me, who I felt who's done good to me. Even when I've seen people do wrong, I still have the fear of losing them. And I'm asking myself, Joevan, why do you have this fear of losing people who do you wrong? It's because I got poor boundaries. It's just because I got low self-worth and low self-values. And as I've gotten older, as I started realizing my self-worth, as I started realizing my self-value, I'm okay with losing people. I'm okay with people saying, you know what, if they want to leave, by my guess, you know what, I'll get the door for you. I'll be your valet. Whatever you want to do, if you want to leave because you don't understand my worth, you don't understand my value, you don't understand the boundaries I'm trying to set, you don't understand the growth that I'm trying to implement in my life, be my guest. You can leave. And I feel so much better about it. I used to eat myself up inside because of me wanting to be accepted, me wanting people around. But now it's like, you know what? I'm okay with losing people. I'm okay with just having such a small circle. I'm okay with the friends that I just have right now. Like, I understand that Drake song, No New Friends, sometimes. I'm not saying that's my life's motto, but sometimes the people who are in your life right now are all the people that you need. Now, I'm not saying that you don't need new people in your life to grow. Now, that's not what I'm saying. I don't want you to get that confused. But sometimes right now in this moment in your life, ask yourself, who are the key people that I need in my life? They may already be there. You just overlook them because you've been trying to get accepted by a new group of individuals and it has not been working out. You know, I can reflect on my friends from college and man, they are some of the best people in the world. Some people I can laugh with, some people I can cry with, some people I can be the most vulnerable self with, some people that I can, you know, be my most authentic self, some people I can just mess up around, some people who would check me and get me all the way together. Man, I've met, those people are like family, you know, and if those are the only friends that I'll have for the rest of my life, I am okay with that. Now, granted, you know, there's other people in my life who have been amazing and I don't take anything from them. But what I want you to get from this lesson is that if nobody else new comes in your life who understands you, who allows you to just be you, just stick with that core group of people that you have in your life. Just stick with them and ride out things with them. Things will be okay with just them. I promise you. Things will be okay with just them. Until you have learned to set your boundary, until you have learned what your boundary looks like. Write down, what do you want your boundary to look like? How do you want people to show up for you? How do you want to show up for yourself? How do you want to show up for other people? And the answer should be your most authentic self. There's this assessment I do called the DISC assessment with people where I show and teach people how to show up as their most authentic self and how to get people to see who you are, what your core values are. That thing is one of the most powerful things ever. And that is what has jump-started my life in understanding my worth, my self-value, understanding myself, my core values, you know, the things I value. Because sometimes you feel like the things that you value don't mean anything. Sometimes you feel like the things that you value aren't necessary, but they are necessary. You are necessary. You are worth setting a boundary. You are worth the word boundary. You are worth, you know, having $1 million. You are worth so much more. And I want you to know that you are worth it. You are worth having a healthy relationship. You are worth having a healthy lifestyle. You are worth having everything that you want and some. A lot of us sell ourselves short because we feel that we're so undeserving of things. We feel that we don't deserve the lifestyle that we want. We feel that we don't deserve goodness. We feel like we don't deserve love. You deserve it all and some. You just got to believe it. But the issue is you can't believe it because you have poor boundaries with yourself. You got poor boundaries with others where your value is what other people value. And I've been in that position. I know what it's like to be there. I know that it sucks. I know that it sucks because you don't get the opportunity to just be there for yourself. You don't get the opportunity to show up for yourself. You don't get the opportunity to live your life. You don't get the opportunity to see the true beauty of what God has created inside of you because you're too busy in somebody else's world. You're too busy not being your most authentic self. You're too busy showing up as another person. You're too busy being a psycho with this other personality that you got to walk out the door every day and be that person. And then when you get home, you get to be you. That's not fair to you. That's not fair. Stop showing up as that person. Stop. Show up as your most authentic self. Find who you want to be. Define who do you want to be. If you are listening to this, if you are watching this, I want you to stop right now. Pause this episode. Go get a notebook. Call a friend who knows you through and through and say, yo, I'm trying to reestablish myself. I'm trying to set the boundary. I'm trying to really get a grasp on my life and understand who I am, what my gift is, what I want to do with my life. How do I want to show up to the world? Write down what it feels like. Write down what it looks like. Write down what it smells like. Write down what it feels like. Write down what it means to say, you know what, my boundary is from the hours of 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'm available. But in between that time, between the hours of maybe 12 to 3, I'm not available. Between the hours of 9 p.m. and 9 a.m., I am no longer available to the rest of the world. That's a start. Start somewhere. You don't have to start off in this big thing and say, this is what I want to do and it has to happen right now. It doesn't. One small step will get you into the direction that you need to get to. And you have to practice that thing over and over and over and over and over again until you say, you know what, I've mastered this one boundary, and then you go into the next. This is not an overnight journey. Don't expect it to be. This is a journey that you have to master. A journey that you have, like the music, the lyrics that you know, the lyrics that you study, the people that you know, how you know people and things by the back of your hand. You need to know your boundaries by the back of your hand. No matter how long it takes, set the expectation, set the boundary. Show up for you this day. Show up for yourself tomorrow. Show up for yourself the day after. Show up for yourself the next week. Show up for yourself next month. Show up for yourself next year. But right now, in this very moment, I want you to write down what you want the life that you want it to be, to look like. Manifest the things that you want. Expect great things for your life. Expect beautiful boundaries for your life. Expect unbotheredness for your life. There was a time where I went viral for showing off my middies, and this is how I knew I grew. I knew I grew because I was so unbothered by the negative feedback that came from me showing off my man chest. I'm so unbothered nowadays because I've set a healthy boundary with people's words will not affect me. People's words won't hinder my growth. People's words won't hinder this newfound freedom that I found in myself. People's words won't hinder this love that I have for myself, this self-love that I have for myself, this falling in love with Joevan thing. People will not hinder that. And I'm here to tell you that you can't allow people to hinder the life that you want because you don't have boundaries, because you don't have how to set the expectation for your life. And for people, learn the word no. It's okay to say no. No is a full sentence. Can you? No. Will you? No. How about no? No. Destiny Child should have taught you that. Learn these things. If your heart says no, then let your answer be no. If your brain says no, let your answer be no. If your calendar says you can't do it, let the word that comes out your mouth is no. No is a healthy boundary sometimes. It's definitely a healthy boundary. That you don't always have to say yes to everything. Because when you say yes to everything, what happens is you're saying no to yourself. You're denying yourself the freedom that you want. You're denying yourself the life that you want. You're denying yourself the moment that you need it. Because when you say yes, what happens is you wind up being in something that you did not want to be in the first place. And you regret opening your mouth. You regret being in that position. You regret being in that space. I get it. I've been there time and time and time again. And I'm still there sometimes where I want to say no so bad, but I can't. Sometimes I just can't, but I'm mustering up the courage to say, no, I can't. Or how about tomorrow? Or maybe how about this time? I have this time available. I can do it then. I would love to show up for you, but I can't right now. And I'm okay with that. I've made peace with that. And it feels so good to me. It feels so good to me to no longer be guilty for saying no. And I want you to no longer feel guilty for saying no. And I want you to feel good about saying yes to yourself. Yes to the things that you want to do for your life. Yes to your goals. Yes to your weight loss goals. Yes to your mental health goals. Yes to your life goals. Yes to your financial goals. Yes to your relationship goals. And no to the things that you don't want to do. This is another episode of Living Blessed the podcast. I'm your host, Joevan J. Palmer. We are out. Peace.